All right, here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome down the security rabbit hole to another edition of your favorite cybersecurity podcast. Welcome down the rabbit hole. Welcome to Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast. I've got, returning guests, luckily. And this is slightly coincidental because I didn't know that the thing that we're talking about is going to happen. But I just got off a really cool webinar with Rob and Jeremiah here.
No, you don't say so.
Talking. What's that?
You don't say.
Listening to those guys talk about the Vuln-pocalypse, and we had a podcast scheduled on this topic, so I figured let's poke at some of those interesting points because I agree the math don't math. It's not mathing. The apocalypse I was promised has not shown up, and wait longer doesn't seem like a good answer. But first, quick intros. Over, Jeremiah, you go first.
Rav, good to see you. So, as you know, I've been in cybersecurity not quite as long as Robert, but still almost 3 decades at this point. I've been doing it longer than I have it. Founder of Whitehead Security. I was an early employee over at SentinelOne. Founded and exited Bit Discovery, and now CEO of Root Evidence. So cyber is what I do.
So you know a little bit about the cyber thing, and you know a little bit about warranties. We'll come back to that.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Snake.
Yeah, I'm Robert Hansen. Thanks for having me, Raf. I have been in computer security for 31 years, and I'm the CTO of Root Evidence. But today, I think we're here to talk about Jer and his crazy experience, because a good chunk of what we talked about was actually all his brainchild this time. So it was refreshing, because I'm like front and center on the data stuff, but this was all his. So
you guys have both been putting out a bunch of interesting content on analyses, and Rob, we've had you on twice to talk about the tweets. About the whole supposition and the position that we've effectively been doing vulnerability management and patching wrong. I tend to agree. I haven't been in the field not quite as long as you guys, but long enough to know. I remember when we called it computer security, infosec, and enterprise security, cybersecurity. All the things. Or just the weird kid that spent his nights banging on the keyboard trying to break things. Maybe I'll start with this. The backgrounder for this is just we've had years and years and years of vulnerabilities piling up. What amounts to what is it, a dozen now? Different scoring, half dozen scoring systems. And is it exploitable? Is it not exploitable? Is it currently being exploited? Does somebody know about it? This is somewhere between a crystal ball and magic, and I don't mean that in a good way. And now, of course, or recently, by the way, I just read the OpenAI. Our latest model can now find vulnerabilities nobody's ever seen before. Okay, cool, bro. Great, can't wait for that one to break out of solitary confinement and hack another.
That's what we needed. More vulns that bad guys don't care about. Great.
Right. That is it, right? So we've had 3 decades, probably more, of legacy tech debt and vuln debt that's been piling up. And the question I asked on a recent show of ours is, if you've got remember, Jeremiah, you asked me, it was in National Harbor, Maryland one time. We were talking about vulnerabilities in web apps. He said, if you had 10 SQL injection vulnerabilities, you solved 9 of them. Can you tell me how much risk you've decreased? And the answer is somewhere between here and there, but maybe somewhere like this. But so, we've piled up decades of tech debt. We've piled up decades of vulnerabilities we haven't patched. We've played whack-a-mole with all the scoring systems, and now AI is going to cause the apocalypse because they're going to find vulnerabilities in everything. Everything will be vulnerable. Everything will get hacked. But wait, it hasn't quite turned out that way.
Can we talk about that tech debt concept? Because when we talk about debt, at least in a financial context, it's we've borrowed and then there's interest and we have to pay it back one day. when it comes to patching security vulnerabilities, does that scenario really apply? Meaning we have a backlog of patches we haven't applied for security problems, but if the adversary never, ever, ever exploits them, why do we ever have to patch them? Is it really debt that accumulates with interest in the same way as we imagine the term? Is that really true?
Okay.
98.5% of all known vulnerabilities have never been exploited, ever.
That we know of.
That we know of.
We can only go by what we know. But yeah.
Right.
Actually, that's just referring to CVEs. If you actually increase it to all the things that haven't made a CVE that should be a CVE, it's substantially way worse than that.
Well, the percentage is lower. It gets into the tenths.
Yeah, tenths of a percent.
Okay, let's try it this way, and let's be really honest about this, because we're asking people to spend time and money, organizations patching. That stuff is not free. I mean, we have to really think of, if most vulns will never be exploited, what is the value of finding, let alone patching these?
Can I give a potentially dangerous real world example? Because I wonder if anybody else is having a difficult time.
We're down the rabbit hole, Raph. Lay it on us.
So you go to a mechanic shop to get your oil change, and they tell you that you've got 7 other things that need to be done immediately because they could cause your car to explode on the highway. Mm-hmm. You choose not to fix any of those. 300,000 miles later, nothing's happened. Is where we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not just like from the last year. I mean, go back as far as you want. This is the number. It's like, I just can't count CVE vulnerabilities, but it's about 1.5% now. It was about that number the year before that. A decade back, it was the same number. The adversaries don't need that many vulnerabilities. We're wasting a lot of time and energy and money.
Yeah,
fixing things that don't matter.
To your analogy there, Raph, I mean, you're saying like a qualified mechanic finds things wrong with your car. Any one of them can cause massive catastrophe, and according to that mechanic, whether we can trust him or not, some amount of time those things end in catastrophe. You might even say, well, that's such a low number. It's only 8 things. I might as well get it fixed. But what if it's not 8 things? What if it's hundreds of thousands of things, or millions of things, or tens or hundreds of millions of things, like some of our customers we're talking to? Well, and then some of them are like, well, this thing could poke you if you rubbed your eyeball on it or whatever. It's like, I mean, what? Like, no one's doing that. These are just not reasonable.
I keep coming back to Spectre and Meltdown. Like, the world had a literal meltdown over this, and it was such a nothing burger for 99.9998% of the world. I don't. Yeah, you're right. And by the way, I've been, having worked in large enterprise, I have been in the position where you get a industry score that says this is a 10 out of 10. This must be patched immediately. You go to bat, you win the argument. The mid-range Unix team applies the patch. You blow up an entire card processing system for 36 hours. And I'm willing to stake my career on the fact that was never going to be exploited anywhere in that environment.
Yeah, that's the deal. Now, here's the thing. Before, and I'll qualify before, these arbitrary scoring systems, patching these issues the way we have been, it's the best we could do with the information that we had at the time. It's only somewhat recently do we know what vulnerabilities are exploited. It's only somewhat recently that we gotten data from the insurance carriers on what leads to financial loss. What it's told us is that all our guessing previously, unfortunately, was just wrong. It was just wrong. So the issue wasn't that we were doing it wrong before. The issue now is, are we going to continue doing it wrong now? Because that's the way it's always been done.
But what you're asking for is an entire industry, a multi-billion-dollar, maybe more, industry that's built around scanning, classifying, and forcing and tracking and prioritizing and God, whatever else is in there, of vulnerabilities that effectively you're saying don't freaking matter.
We know statistically they don't matter. And maybe right there, all those characteristics is exactly the problem. why aren't they focused on reducing financial loss rather than focus on fixing as many vulnerabilities as humanly possible? That's contradiction. I mean, what benefit is to the business if you're going to spend the same amount of money patching as you would have getting hacked? I mean, what's the issue here?
Back to your car analogy. Let's say I have 100,000 vulns to go fix or something. You're going to spend more money than the car's worth. Why are we doing this again?
I've had that conversation as well. Like, why would we do this? And I know it's been a long time, but we've had this conversation on this podcast. I don't know if it was you, Rob. I think somebody else before, but the conversation of like, at some point you just go, I'm not going to fix all this. I'm going to let my insurance carrier I'm going to do my best, and then the rest is going to be insurance.
And then right there, what is our best? What is reasonable?
Right.
But like, is our best using everything we got and all the patch capacity that we have? Is that our best? Or is it best? Like, this is the conversation we have with CISOs now. What if you just look for, scan for, and fix all the known exploited vulnerabilities? That way, when and if you get breached, you'll be the first one that would ever get breached on that issue. The first one. I mean, who can expect any more than that? You were the first. There's nothing more you could have done. How could anybody possibly know what the next vulnerability is? You know, that there are ways to do this. Like, patch management can only go so far. At some point, fast detection response, like we talked about earlier, MDR, canaries, and things like this. Just because you get exploited doesn't mean there's a loss. There's a way to minimize damage other than patch everything at all times. That's absurd.
So this is part of, I think, a broader problem in the way that our niche of IT operates. It's very silo focused, right? So the vuln management, the scanning and patching people will tell you this is the most important thing, do this above all else. The detection and response people will tell you that's the most important thing, do this above all else. Everybody else has this is the most important thing. And we really have been terrible. And I mean, 30 years in, we've been terrible at saying, this is what reasonable looks like across the entire spectrum of things you're supposed to do. I think maybe because that's hard, but I haven't seen a lot of effort there.
You know, it might be cultural. Let me just lay a different analogy for you, or a different concept. Going back 25 or so years, when vuln management was really getting going, you really could scan for everything, and you could scan for everything, and you really could patch for everything.
Yeah,
you really could. Over the years, the environments got so big, the number of vulns got so big, where now you really just can't. But I think that culture stuck, that scan and patch everything. I mean, then, when we figured out earlier that we couldn't patch everything, then we prioritized. You have to patch everything, but in this order. And now we're at the point where,
Well, we drew this again. It's criticals, high, mediums, lows, and then everything else. And rather than taking it as I think rather than looking at it from a rational, like, what is going to cause the damage perspective, and Rob, we talked about this, like the fact that scoring is an absurd black magic.
It's also wrong. For instance, I think there's many vulnerabilities that have no score at all that are currently being used by the financial adversaries. None. There's no score.
Oops. So I think the incentive structure is completely broken too. Like, Jeremiah, you're right in that. Went back a long time ago when somebody asked, hey, where are all the computers in this company? You could go, there they are.
Yeah.
And there's my T1 and there's my firewall at the end of it, in between the internet and us. And I can put I can go touch all this stuff. But that ability disappeared real fast.
Long ago.
Right. And we haven't, like, the practices of vulnerability management or remediation hasn't evolved at all. Safe to say, in the prioritization space, but trying to prioritize 10 million things feels like trying to turn the Titanic with a teaspoon. And it is categorically failed. Like there's just nothing that's going to convince me that we've done a reasonable job anywhere.
Well, historically, we didn't know who the bad guys were. We didn't know we were going to show up. We didn't know their level of sophistication. We didn't know what they're going to hit. They didn't know. We didn't know what exploits they were going to use against us. We didn't know a lot. So all of cybersecurity, all of our standards, practices, best practices is all against all those unknowns. Protect everything against everything at all times, especially the super hacker. It was a large guess because we were blind to all the actuarial data. That was before. Yeah. Now we have actuarial data. We know who the adversaries are. We know their general level of sophistication. We know what vulns they use. We know the types of systems they target. We know the industries that they target. We know the loss data. We know exactly what to do. The only question is, will we do it a more evidence-based approach? That is
actually, Jared, hold on. So, Jared, this is probably a good time. So we've been talking about this internally. At some point, let's say the Vuln-pocalypse continues, and we continue to see this rapid increase in new CVEs being created, not utilized, just created. Right? I think everyone can agree that's actually happening. So, at what point does the cost of goods sold for the average, very large vulnerability management company start going up to the moon as well? And at which point do they get so expensive that people literally can't afford them, like except for maybe a handful of very specific machines, and therefore they become all but useless until they realize, oh shit, we really need to prioritize and only look for the things that matters. Like eventually everyone has to come to where we are. We're just already there.
So you're right. So I think it's an interesting point you make that you didn't say this out loud, but I think it bears putting this out there. I think there may be a misconception that's been following us for a long time that all the vulnerability scanners out there scan for like all the known vulns, and they don't. Right? They scan for some small subset that they think is important and that they can reliably and reasonably find in networks. So you're still not, like, no matter what, you're not getting the whole thing. You're getting somebody's version of what they believe is important against a scoring system that some person believes is important that's created some math to prove it.
Well, but even that limited list is still far too long.
It's two guesses. I'm going to guess at which ones I have to scan for, and I'm going to guess the relative severity of them. There's no hard data behind any of this. It's all just guesses. What we're saying is, like, we just wrote a book about it. It's called The End of Guessing. How about we don't guess anymore? We know what the bad guys are using. And they're not using new stuff every day. Just fix the ones that they're using. There's 619 of them. We know the exact number. Fix those. Force a shift, force an expense onto the adversary. It's the exact thing we haven't done. Imagine for a moment that we have just talked with tons of cyber insurance carriers. They are suffering 30 to 40% of all their claims are remotely exploitable vulnerabilities, and it reduces down to 619 total CVEs. We're fixing the wrong ones in the wrong order. That's clear.
Yeah. So this is a long-standing thing that you guys have both said in different, probably going back 30 years, but the idea here is to ratchet up the expense for the adversary. We have been doing a terrible job at that because it's widely been known, and I think it's now accepted that just because some exotic new vulnerability got announced yesterday doesn't mean anybody's going to go try to do that. And the adversaries very rarely go spend their own money to go buy a 0 day that nobody else knows, likely because the target they're trying to exploit has so many much easier targets, right, that they can just simply hit that don't cost them anything.
It might even be simpler than that. What they're doing is working. They don't even pay attention to the other stuff. When it stops working, they'll buy another tool. That's it. There's no more calculus than that.
Yeah. So if we ratchet up, so okay, we you said 617. Is that the number? Is that the number you
619.
619. Fine. 619. I as a company fix all 619. All my peers start to get towards that. Then the adversary then shift to another? Does that now? Do we keep playing the bigger
that's an
game?
unknown. We don't know. I mean, they could shift to other vulnerabilities. They could shift to entirely new forms of attack that we've never seen before. They could start utilizing AI, which they are actually not doing right now. They could switch to other areas like WebAppSec, for instance, which they've kind of ignored for a while, or entirely new areas, or double down on places that are very successful already, like phishing or drive-by downloads, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of options, but we haven't made them shift from CVEs at all. I mean, they're still running rampant there. So why would they shift?
Yeah, why would anybody shift if what they're doing is cheap and working,
and isn't getting them caught? Right? They're not getting busted. A very small handful are, but most of them are not.
So in our view, in the case of vuln management, scan everything for at least the vulns that matter every single day, force the shift. And since we're only talking about 619, use your excess patch capacity and make some guesses. Vulnerabilities that are exploited do cluster around a few characteristics by particular vendor, by class of attack. They do concentrate. You can make a guess with the patch capacity that you have. After that point, then you're going to get a lot more bang from the buck with canaries and network segmentation and MDR and things like that. But back to patching everything immediately, no.
Yeah.
Go talk to a retailer around Christmas about that. Like, yeah, right.
Yeah. Anytime between the week before Thanksgiving to 2 weeks after New Year's.
And it boggles the brain, because this is our reputation on the line here. When cybersecurity is telling the head of IT to patch everything at all times, that's a reputational hit. Everybody knows you can't do that. It's not worth the risk. You will risk the hack rather than risk a self-inflicted harm. Which one do you want to go to the board with?
Yeah. Well, there's two possibilities here. When you say that we must do this or bad things will happen, you do it and bad things still happen, or you don't do it and nothing happens. Both of those are equally terrible for us from a reputational perspective.
Well, in the business doesn't really care about so much the reputation of the cybersecurity professional. They care about downtime. They care about financial loss. And if we're going to talk about vulns and patching and whatever else we're going to spend on, let's talk about it in terms of financial loss. Like, if we want to cover a little bit different topic here, this is the thought exercise I run everybody through these days. If you go to RSA and Black Hat, you stand on the show floor, you look at every single product and service out there, what percentage of them, if they work perfectly as advertised, lower financial loss? The highest answer, the average answer that I get amongst security pros is 20%.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty generous.
Similar answers.
And then if you ask them, when you invest money in developing a cybersecurity product, does most of your dollars go towards feature parity with the competition or disrupting the bad guy? Everybody says feature parity. Yeah. So all of a sudden, we have an entire industry of malinvestment because we haven't focused on the one thing that matters: financial loss. We are doing it differently this time.
I tell you guys, like, this is something that has bothered me for a long time, in that the entire industry, as it has exploded over the last 15 years, like it feels like every year something new comes out and there's 15x of it more than there should be. They are all playing catch up with each other. So whoever is the standard bearer, whoever gets to market first with something they can convince an analyst is important, some new thing, everybody tries to copy them and catch and do a feature parody or a one-up on them. Like, I have yet to see a true analysis by an analyst firm that would tell me not which of these is better, but which of these is relevant.
This goes to what I call the lack of negative feedback loop.
Oh,
what analyst would tell the enterprises that buying this entire category, let alone a particular product, is a complete waste of money.
Well, that's part of the terrible incentive structure. This whole industry is built on we're pharmaceuticals again, right? Like, forget curing you, buy more vitamins and pain meds. Like, you'll feel better. It'll make you feel better. Never mind that you're dying.
And that's the issue right there. Our industry, for the moment, lacks a negative feedback loop for wasteful spending. If you spend money you didn't need to spend and nothing happens, you could say the product worked, or it could be that the product wasn't going to do anything anyway.
Well, this is also a particular soapbox of mine, but like, the measurements behind it suck. How do you tell if any of this stuff works?
The feedback loop from the DFIR guys and the reinsurers and insurers gives us a really good sense of what does and doesn't work, with a couple of caveats.
But I don't hear that out there in the industry. That's like,
because they have no interest in telling the market when they're wasting money. They have the data, but why should they carry or tell their customers when they're wasting money?
Yeah, I mean,
and why would the analyst jeopardize future revenue to say that this product definitely doesn't solve any problems?
We believe there's a way around this.
Give me a way around this, Jer.
Warranties come up.
Yeah, okay. So talk to me about warranties, because warranties in cyber are always interesting to me, because you're basically saying I think I know the solution and I'm willing to put real dollars behind it.
So let's say you go to the business and you say, because if I don't have to invest money developing a product for feature parity that has no relevance to the adversary whatsoever, my focus is purely on disrupting the bad guy, purely on lowering your financial loss. I can make a very laser focused product that just does one thing incredibly well, protecting you from the adversary. It'll cost less, it'll be faster, low impact. And should anything happen, I will cover the first $5 million on your breach costs. We've built that. We've done that. And it's not like the insurance carriers are agreeing with us. We're agreeing with them. We're just scanning for the things that they already know. That's how we're going to get there. If the business still wants to spend double, triple, or whatever on something else, cause themselves a lot of pain with no financial downside protection, that's on them. But we have something different.
So how do you backstop that? Because that's like, if you're wrong, that's a lot of million times 5.
It's for the very same reason that you can get, every company is buried in vulns. We know this, right? Yeah. And every company can get cyber insurance today. How does this work? So what we're finding is that these are the vulns that matter. We'll cover the financial loss because we know if you fix those, you're not going to have a loss. Statistically improbable. And our liability is transferred to the insurance carriers. We're not holding the bag here. We're not betting the farm on here. This is the same model we've been using for the last decade or more.
They know we're right because it's their data.
It's their data.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I hear you.
Because here's the challenge with the cyber insurance carriers, and they'll tell you straight out, they can't tell their customers what to do because what they call is a soft market. If their carrier tells you what to do, you'll go use another carrier because that carrier will write a policy. That's not the same for us.
That makes sense. Okay, so this is a little bit different than what I was thinking that was going to be. Interesting. So where do you get the data on, like, real working data on what's actually being exploited? Are the carriers tracking this?
Yeah, they have to track it. It's in their financial interest to track it. So a breach happens, a claim comes in, their DFIR teams internally, externally get deployed. They do a root cause analysis. In the cases that say remotely exploitable vulnerability was the initial point, here's the CVE number, and they send it to us.
Okay. Is this a consortium of carriers? Is this a universally accepted practice among the carriers to share this data?
No, it's all brand new.
Yeah, we're definitely breaking ground on this one.
Okay.
we've been working on this for 2 or 3 years, collecting all this data from them. We were the first ones to ever ask.
You know, you can't get the right answer unless you ask. This is interesting because you're now giving focus to something that has been chaotic, best effort chaotic before, up until, I mean, still is, right? Up until now, largely focusing chaotic. What's the best possible outcome for you guys that you, from an industry perspective?
We've gone through this many times. We did White Hat security together, and at some point we pushed AppSec so high that the adversary shifted and they went to ransomware. They shifted tactics. I did SentinelOne and helped them out. I didn't found the company, obviously, but I helped them out with ransomware before ransomware was a thing. And if you notice, those companies, they have issues. Like, no product is perfect, but the adversary from there got pushed to CVEs, where we land now. We do have the ability, with the right solutions, to chase the bad guy from attack type to attack type. And we believe very strongly we know how to go after the right vulnerabilities that forces a shift, forces their cost to go up.
We're actually optimists, believe it or not.
Yeah.
We have enough data now. We know what we're doing.
Yeah, like once we figured out, you don't have to patch everything at all times. You're like, wow, this is doable.
That feels like that feels like to me there are going to be some very hurt feelings in and around this space, because this is the I don't want to say snake oil, but I'll say snake oil, that they've been selling their customers for 15 to 20 years. And suddenly somebody new shows up and goes, that's bullshit. Only 1% of this matters.
I've been having this conversation with Jer on and off for the last 2 years. Like, we're going to make a lot of enemies.
Well, they didn't know at the time. They did their best guess. They didn't know.
I don't know.
Now
maybe.
we know. Now we know more. Like, the carriers didn't have the data 5 years ago. They didn't. Now they do. Like, the industry made its best guess. It just unfortunately was wrong. And now it's the actuarial era. Let's chase it.
I'm looking forward to
we're not exclusive over this data.
Okay, actually,
everybody else can go do it.
Well, I think this dovetails into the webinar we did earlier. But there are things our industry are doing that is absolutely their fault, like calling O days of things other than O days. I mean, that there's some real big things out there saying that the adversaries are speeding up with no data to back any of those statements up.
Yeah, well, you've got the hype train has to listen. This is the classic problem, right? It's the same in politics as it is in cyber, as it is in the news. You have to keep ratcheting up the rhetoric. Today it's bullets. Tomorrow it's nuclear weapons, and after that it's biothermonuclear warfare, because that's what's coming. They sell you the next thing. I have to scare you with something bigger and worse than yesterday. But the problem continues to be the stuff that worked 20 years ago. I actually saw so total sidebar, but I actually very recently saw evidence at a past employer where we had access to this, of a vulnerability being scanned for that was older than my kids.
Yeah,
I believe it. Yeah. And there are vulns that are being utilized that are 20 years old now. By the
which, like, are you serious? Yeah. Does this? And the question was, like, we all sat around the table, sort of looked at the data, and we're like, "Are they kidding me?" Like, and somebody asked the question, like, "Well, are they wrong?" And the answer, I think, quite honestly, is no, because why would somebody spend their time scanning for something that didn't work? Like, somewhere out there are enough systems that are 20 years old that still have a patch that's not applied, that makes this attacker's time to go scan for them worthwhile. Yeah. And that is a brain-breaking thing, right? Because whether you're talking about like all the municipal water systems that people are kind of losing their minds over right now, right? That's like, I've seen NT4 in those environments because it works, and nobody has the time or money. There's no profit in running a municipal water treatment facility.
Well, to your earlier point, there will, the data that we're bringing up, the concepts that we're voicing, we're used to it. We will hurt feelings, but we're in it to protect our customers. That's why we're in this. And here's the thing. What's wrong with cybersecurity vendors sharing financial risk with their customers? Who is really going to speak against that?
Let's find out.
What's the problem with this? You're asking them to pay a bunch of money and then spend a bunch more money doing the stuff you believe, you don't know, you believe is wrong with no evidence to back it up. This is wrong. We have to do better.
It's amazing what kind of behaviors can be driven from empirical evidence that stands on its own, from data that doesn't need interpretation, right? And I think that's been the hard part is we've had, we'll say, selective data that's been largely open to interpretation. But I think as we mature, this is I think long time coming. As we mature as a practice, right, as cybersecurity, because we are the youngest part of IT, I think, at this point, right? Like we as a practice, cyber is not only.
I think AI might be a bit younger.
Well, okay, fine. I think that's a separate thing. Okay, fine, AI, but cyber is relatively new in the expanse of technology, right? And we were inevitably going to have to go through that like awkward teenage phase where we don't quite fit in. Like we look at the, where we've come from, we go, wow, glad I'm not that anymore. And we look at where we're going and go, I'm not there yet. I feel like this is going to be a relatively difficult transition because there's going to be security programs in the enterprise that are fundamentally going to have to change. And if you're not as a CISO or as a director or whoever runs this program, if you're not able to articulate correctly why the change is happening, it is going to be scary. And it's going to feel like you're going to go tell your boss that you've been screwing around for the last 20 years. And now it's I need to go do something different. Well, why? I think Jerry said it best, right? The data is now available. It wasn't available earlier. But now is the time to make that change, because if you don't, then this starts to sound like that word that rhymes with negligence.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a big opportunity here to where we can actually make an impact as an industry. We can figure out what works. We can figure out what doesn't work. The data is there. We can share risk with our customers. This whole market is disruptible. There's $200 billion spent every year, and it's up for grabs now because all of it was based upon a guess, and we know the guesses were wrong. So for anybody out there, for startups or the big security vendors, the game is on now. We can do this. I mean, we're supposed to be reducing financial loss here. If you read the metrics in the industry, if they're to be believed, are we spending $200 billion a year to lose $1 trillion? Is that what we're doing here? Are we? We just said a moment ago that everybody thinks about 20% of our products work. That means if you're pitching your product to your peers, 4 out of 5 of them think it's worthless. I mean, come on, we could do a lot better than this.
I hope we do. I really hope we get to a point where what we do on a daily basis, whether it's vulnerabilities, AI, whatever, is much more data driven than it's been in the past. I'm glad you guys are doing this. I want to come back in any 6 months, a year, and figure out like, all right, how are you getting on? Because adoption is going to be interesting.
We're a month where we've spent a year building the product. We raised money a year ago. Our 1-year anniversary, or our GA, was a month ago, and we are already crushing it. People want this.
I listen. It would seem a little insane of somebody to say, I know what's going to, I know the safety features that I should be using because there's data for it. But you know what, YOLO, I'm going to keep doing the thing that I've been doing. Like this, that seems like the definition of insanity that Einstein said.
Well, just real quick on that, we in Vuln management, we found 2 different religions, and they kind of are religions. There's the ones that really want to. There's the security departments that want to tell IT to fix all vulns at all times. They want that to happen. And then there's the other ones that know that all these vulns, they're not patched, they haven't been patched, but it's on their dashboards and they have to report to the board why 100 million vulnerabilities aren't fixed. They want a valid reason why these don't have to be fixed. A way to say those can wait forever if necessary.
There's one kind of negative incentive that's worth calling out here. If you're a CISO and you're in a position where you have to make that decision, are you playing with your chips or are you playing with company chips? Because if you're playing with your chips, you're going to go, I really do not want to get fired, but I also have a limited budget. I'm going to work within the constraints. I'm working for the betterment of the company and the upside of the company, et cetera, et cetera. If you're playing with the company's chips, you'll say, fix everything. Because any risk at all, I'm not going to expose myself, and I don't care how much the company loses to have to get there. And so I think that there isn't a negative feedback loop, unfortunately, to weed out that behavior. Which is why you're saying spend in the billions of dollars, literally, for things like Mythos. But I think over time, eventually a CFO is going to say, "What did we get for spending $2 billion a year on this?" I think that's been happening for a while. I think we've the hand wavy, smoke and mirrors. Don't look over here. Look at how bad this is. Stuff, right? The jazz hands has worked and then has been losing its luster and fade over time. I think the biggest risk, if I'm totally honest right now, to a CISO is that they've gone and created this must patch, like you said, Jared, must patch everything all the time. They now have this mandate that they've been driving, and to go back to those people and say, I was wrong. The shift, there's a shift. Now we're going to go do this small subsection. I think a lot of that it feels like it isn't, but it feels like I was wrong. I have to accept defeat. It's not. We're pivoting based on available data and like new intelligence. But this is going to be a shift, I think, for a lot of people, and it could be very difficult because again, you're telling your board, you've been fighting that battle of like, here we got to fix these 500, and they've got this scorecard that says there's 5,000, there's 4,000, there's 3,000, there's 9,000, there's 2,000, and now you're like 12. Well, you're like, wait a minute.
At some point, the conversation is going to be had because the CFO will ask the CISO, why isn't our insurance carrier making us fix all this stuff? They're giving us a policy anyway. I mean, that's going to be a really uncomfortable conversation if you don't have a good answer. Like, these policies are getting into multi-billions. And they're cheap. It's like 5% premium for the liability limit. I mean, it's cheap. So why do you want me to spend another $100 million patching when our downside is protected? Explain this to me.
Or $1 billion.
Yeah.
Like seriously, we're talking to companies who are spending $1 billion or more a year on SAST. Like, what are you doing? Are you removing $1 billion of liability? Because otherwise, you're wasting company money.
Well,
did you make $1 billion on more sales because of this strategy? I don't think so.
When you're playing with house money and what's happening in security is so far disconnected what's happening with the company's bottom line. We've become sort of numb to this. It's acceptable that these things are out of whack. Now, what you're saying is I now have evidence for what parity, like what we should start spending and working on. Like, this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt people, and they're going to be mad that you're giving them an alternative. And why would they, like, this is going to shift some thinking.
We're excited by it, really, because
me too.
We get to spend more efficiently. We have a really interesting story to tell, a really interesting perspective with data behind it that we can tell it's different from everybody else out there.
Yeah, that's the key there. We have data, we have receipts for all this. So it's not like we have an opinion. This is what we're getting from people who actually have to pay out.
Yeah, that's the catch here. This isn't just another company with an idea to make money, although it is, but this is based, you guys are basing this on like real, this is the problem according to insurance companies. This is the problem we're going to solve, and those circles overlap. Not a little bit, not like we think they overlap, but you could actually show how they overlap. I'm excited. All right, cool. You guys are always doing some cool shit. That's really nice.
Thank you. And we're also not in the position. We're not telling you you don't. You can if you want to keep spending money over there, you can. We're saying right here, do this.
Yeah, you can keep doing this stuff, but this is the part that matters.
Yeah.
Right. So, all right. Well, cool, guys. I'm out of time, but this has been fun. I appreciate the insight. This is so. Let me ask: do you guys actually believe that in like 30 seconds or less that as these crazy new, what seems to be overhyped and overmarketed AI models keep getting released by these two big vendors that try to keep one-upping each other, are we eventually going to get to a point where we're going to drive the vulnerability, the cost of identifying new vulnerabilities that'll actually blow some of this model that you guys are having up away?
There's no data to indicate that. Tools are already in the hundreds of dollars. What is making it cheaper matter? No.
Yeah, fair enough.
You go on the dark web right now and buy a few hacking tools for a couple of grand. Drive it down to what?
Yeah, you're right.
We're not seeing anything. In fact, Robert, tell them what you've been asking the carriers.
I asked 8 different carriers how many losses they saw that have been at all attributed in any way to AI, and if you exclude phishing, because that's a real thing,
yeah,
the answer is 0. All 8
of
them.
Oh, that's an entire podcast entirely on its own, because I've got some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's holes in the data, but still, like, they're not seeing anything. No increase to anything. Not one. In fact, the closest thing anyone could come up with was, well, sometimes the frontier models get sued because they're scraping too much. I'm like, that's not what we're talking about here.
The interesting thing, the follow-up to that is, and we can just keep going with this, but I think we'll stop here, is like, how would we even know at this point?
No, there's signals. There's signals.
Yeah,
but you're right to be skeptical, and there's holes in the data because DFIR can't do as good a job as we'd all like them to do.
Part of the next conversation, Robert has a great theory, and I'm on board with it, is that the use of AI for the adversaries, unless they're very careful during the attack, it's an evolutionary dead end. Using AI will get you caught, which is all of what we've been seeing.
That's an interesting thought to end on. Gentlemen, thanks for your time. I appreciate you. This has been an interesting conversation. All right, tell me the company, people to go, what website to go check out?
Rootevidence.com.
Rootevidence, not .ai.
Negative.
I love it. All right, guys. Rob, Jeremiah, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a lot of fun and educational. We'll definitely have you guys back, because I want to hear as this data evolves. Let's wait 6-9 months and see what happens. I want to see where this goes.
Happy to.
Great.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a good one. Thanks. Folks,
you.
Thanks for listening. This has been yet another episode of the Down to Security Rabbit Hole podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. Give these guys a listen and a follow, and obviously go check out what they're doing. Evidence should lead the way, and we'll catch you guys another time, another place on another Down to Security Rabbit Hole podcast. Ciao, everybody. Bye-bye.